Today is June 11th, 2013, and I am interviewing Sudie Bovine Foster. And we are at C.E. Brehm Public Library in Mount Vernon, Illinois. Ms. Foster was born on 12/27/1967. My name is Cheryl Walker. I am with the Illinois State Library, and I'll be interviewing Ms. Foster. Ms. Foster, could you say for the record what war and branch of service you served in?
I was in the Army, and during a year after Desert Storm, Saddam Hussein decided he wanted to take back Kuwait City, so I was on a rapid deployment to Kuwait and it was still in a war zone.
Okay. And what was your highest rank?
E5.
Okay. What years of service?
From 1986 to 2000.
Okay, and what was your unit that you served with?
The first unit I served in was in Baumholder, Germany. It was 208th Forward Support Battalion in 8th Infantry Division.
Okay, where did you take your basic training?
I took basic training at Fort Jackson and at AIT at Fort Sam Houston.
What was your MOS?
I was a 91 Bravo medic.
What did you do as a medic?
Oh, we gave IVs, I did sutures, I did toenail removals. We fell under the doctor's license, and he basically did let us do anything a nurse or sometimes a PA would do.
How long was your advanced training for a medic?
10 weeks, I think.
Did you have prior medical training?
No.
Okay, what made you decide that's what you wanted to go in?
My mom was an LPN, and I was just always interested in that type of work.
What made you decide to enlist into the service?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of jobs that I was interested in my area. And my dad and 3 of my brothers were in the Army, and it just seemed like it would be very interesting to me. And I loved it while I was in.
So you were in Germany, and how long were you in Germany?
18 months.
Okay. Did you live on post all that time?
In the barracks, yes.
In the barracks? And did you get to travel?
Yes, I went to Paris, France for my 19th birthday, and I spent 3 days there, and that was really interesting. And I also went to Bavaria and saw 11 different castles, to include the Neuschwanstein Castle, which is what Walt Disney's castle is mimicked after. And I went to one Oktoberfest in Bavaria.
While in Germany, was there anything particular that stands out that you found was the most interesting case that you did in Germany? Related to your field, your MOS.
I did get to work in the emergency room for 3 months while I was there. And probably the thing that sticks out the most is we had a premature baby. She was being in labor, and we had to deliver it there and then take her to Landstuhl, Germany, which was about an hour away. But we had to get the incubator all ready. And
so you actually worked in the hospital there?
Yes, for 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah. We all had rotations there.
Now, so you worked in the emergency room there, and did you work in different floors or different areas?
Just emergency.
Just emergency.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after you worked in the hospital, what did you do?
We were in the field a lot. We were probably in the field more than we were in the barracks.
And were you in training in the
Yeah.
field?
Yes.
Okay. So how many medics were assigned to a unit?
I think there was like 100 in our unit.
Wow.
And that was, I mean, there was X-ray techs and lab techs, and then there was a lot of 91 Bravos, and there was nurses and LPNs.
So it was a whole operational hospital in the field.
Yes.
And was this a tent?
We had 5-ton trucks that had sides that folded out, and that's where our lab and our X-ray were. The tents were our medical wards, and we would perform sick call duty every morning.
What kind of things would you see in the field?
Sprained ankles, broken fingers, smashed fingers from putting tent pegs in.
Okay. So after Germany, where did you go?
I got out for 4 months because I thought I didn't like the Army. After 4 months of working in a nursing home, I decided the Army was really what I did like. I miss the camaraderie of having such close friends that knew what, and they were responsible people, and they weren't whiners. I hate whiners.
So it was a different atmosphere than civilian life.
Yes.
So you went back in.
Yes.
Did you have to go through basic training?
No, I did not. I went straight to Fort Hood, Texas, and I was assigned to 3 Corps, the HAC 3 Corps, as a admin tech because they were overstocked on medics on the whole post. So I worked for Army Community Service and Army Emergency Relief as an admin person for 3 years.
And what does an admin person do?
Typing. I answered telephone, filed.
So you got some administration
Yes.
Experience at that point.
Yes.
Okay. And so from that point, where did you go and what did you do?
After 3 years, they sent me over to 1st Cav Division, and at that time the unit was still at Desert Storm. So we were just waiting on them to come back. They were gradually coming back. So I was didn't get to know everybody right away because they were still in Desert Storm.
And were you still an admin?
No, I became a 91 Bravo there, a medic.
Medic. And so they were coming back, and you were back into the medic field, and you were at this point still in Texas.
Yes.
And you were with a new company.
Yes.
And you were getting to know. How large was the company?
This was another forward support, so the company was about 100 people.
Okay. And how long were you with this company?
I was with them from 92 to 94.
Okay. And you lived on post?
No, me and my husband lived off post.
Okay. So you were married at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long were you stationed there?
At Fort Hood, I was there 11 years altogether, but different units.
Okay. How many units were you with at Fort Hood?
I was with 3 Corps, 1st Cav, 2AD, 4ID, 13 COSCOM, and that was it. Okay.
Oh. And were all of them medic?
Yes. Okay. I was in a main support there, and then the 13 COSCOM was an area support.
Okay. Were you deployed at any point, or did you go overseas at any other point?
When I was in 1st Cav, with that unit. I was there about 8 months, and that was when Hussein decided he was going to take back Kuwait City on the anniversary of the liberation. And I went home for lunch and had a message on my answering machine to get back in there for a pre-deployment briefing, and I was in country in 48 hours.
That was quick.
Yes.
So how, I mean, okay, so 48 hours you had. So how long did you have to prepare to get everything together and get over there? Or get back to your unit?
It was less than 2 days that we had to get together, get everything together.
And what all did you have to get together?
Most of our stuff was already together because we spent a lot of time in the field. Most of our equipment, as far as, the war gear, and we had to get issued actual MOP suits for NBC, and we had to get shots, and we had to have our will done, and power of attorney, and but they had it. We took about 24 hours to do all that, and we were there late into the night to make sure everything got done.
Okay, so you were, how'd all of your equipment get over there?
Well, because of Desert Storm and Desert Shield, they actually left some equipment over there. And when we got there, we went to the motor pool and you did your preventive maintenance checks on a vehicle that they wanted you to take. And you made sure that it was going to run good for you. And then you would sign it out and you would be assigned that vehicle for the whole time you were there.
How many women were in your unit or worked right alongside you?
There was probably as many women as there was men. And we had lieutenants that were female, and our PA was a female PA. And I know several of the squad leaders were females. And probably about half of each squad was a female.
When you got over there, was there a compound that you actually stayed on?
For most of the time we were on Doha in Kuwait City. And it was buildings that they built during Desert Storm. And that was my phone. They went into this big warehouse building and they had stalls made that slept 4 people. And they had metal bunks that had a cushion about that big in it that you slept on. And then they had metal cabinets for your locker that they put a rod in there for you to hang your clothes.
Now, did you have any children?
At that time, I did not.
And how long were you there?
I was there a little over 3 months.
How was communication to home?
At that time, it was just phone calls, and we were allowed to have 1 phone call a day, and it had to be within 15 minutes, and then you could write letters.
Was it easy to get letters to and from?
Yeah, my parents sent me goodie packages.
And what was your favorite thing to get?
My dad sent me some cheese in the mail.
Was it fresh?
It was. I didn't eat it because I just thought it was very odd that he sent me cheese. And I asked him, I said, why would you send cheese? It couldn't be refrigerated. And he was like, we eat it all the time, not refrigerated. I was like, okay. But they sent me cookies and brownies and those little tuna fish and crackers and the cheese with breadsticks. We enjoyed those, and I usually shared.
Did everybody share?
Yeah.
Did you get magazines and newspapers and things like that?
Some people did.
Some people did. Did you get a lot of letters, support letters, and cards and things like that from communities?
We got some during that time that was to any soldier. Yeah.
So, how long did you stay there?
Little over 3 months.
Okay. And then you came back
Yes.
to Texas?
Fort Hood, Texas.
Fort
Yes.
Hood, Texas. And when was your next deployment?
In September, I went to Korea with my husband. My husband came down on orders while I was in Kuwait.
So he was also in the service?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I went to Korea, and I was supposed to go up north to 2ID area. But the sergeant major of my husband was his sergeant major at Fort Hood. And he was like, no, you're not going up there. I'm keeping you right here with me. So I got assigned to an MP unit as their medic for 8th Army.
So you guys got to stay together?
Yes. And I got pregnant there, and that's where my first child was born.
So, okay, you were pregnant, and your first child was born in Korea.
Yes.
And were you active the whole time that you were pregnant?
Yes. Every day I had to go to the MP unit and be in formation, which we lived off post, so I had to, walk quite a bit down the hill to get a taxi, and then the taxi sometimes didn't take you all the way to the unit either, and it was up and down hills. And then after formation, I'd have to go over to the medical clinic and help with sick call. And so that was up and down quite a few big hills.
Did you find it difficult to be in the service at the time that you were pregnant?
No, not really.
It was just like being on the outside in the civilian world.
Yes. I was probably more active, which probably was better for me and the baby anyways. More active than a regular person would be, a civilian would be.
At the time that you were in the service, how much maternity leave did you get?
I got 6 weeks. And during that 6 weeks, I was at 5 weeks when we were due to go back to the States. So that gave me the option of waiting until my maternity leave was over and then clear while I was on maternity leave. And I wanted to leave with my husband, so I cleared while I was on maternity leave. And I got 6 weeks because my daughter was an emergency C-section. So the C-sections, they give you longer.
So being at that point, you left Korea, and it was Seoul. Where in Korea were you stationed?
Seoul.
Seoul. Okay. And you left there and went back to Texas.
Yes.
And you're stationed there in Texas once again. And how long were you activated again, or were you taken overseas again?
Not until 1998. So that was 4 years later.
And where did you go then?
I went back to Korea.
Now, did you go with your family again?
No. My husband was out by then, and I had my second child already. So my husband had to take care of the 2 kids while I was in Korea for a year.
And you stayed there a year,
Mm-hmm.
And you were all by yourself.
And well, I was at Camp Hovey, which was in the 2ID area.
And what's the 2ID area?
2nd Infantry Division.
Okay.
Which is up close. I was within 13 kilometers of the northern border.
Okay. So how safe did you feel?
It was pretty safe over there at that time. We had some alerts, but they were for practice. Um, we really weren't restricted to post or anything. We could go off post anytime we wanted to. The what they call a warrior pass, which is an overnight pass, was pretty easy to get. They could give four every night um, of the weekends or the holidays.
And did you get a warrior pass?
Yeah, I got several warrior passes.
What did you do?
Well, there's a bar there, and it's all military people that go there. And in 1985, they started this club called the Outlaws, and they treat each other like family. And they really, we have meetings every week, and we supported a orphanage there. We would go out once a month and play soccer with them, bring them presents, give them fuel money for heating. We'd bring them on post to the pool and let them go swimming with us. And once you're a member, you're always a member. So we have about 5,000 members, and it's still going to this day.
And do you still support this orphanage?
Yeah, the ones there still support the orphanage there. And once a year we have a reunion somewhere in the United States, and as many of us can get there. And there's several that are truck drivers, and if they're coming through Mount Vernon, they'll stop. And I go meet them and bring them dinner, or we sit down at Denny's and have dinner.
So there's a bond
Yes.
to this club.
Yes, a bond of being in Korea away from your family in what could become a war zone at any moment.
So how long has this been going on?
Since it started in 1985.
1985. And there's how many members?
There's over 5,000 members.
What a bond. And are they all Army?
Well, there's the civilians, the teachers, and just the DOD civilians, and some Navy, a few Air Force.
That's fantastic. What do you think that's one of the most memorable things that you've...
Yes. The bond that I had with the people in Kuwait, and the bond of the people that my second tour in Korea is my most memorable of my Army time.
Okay, let's go back to the bond you had with the people in Kuwait.
I moved here for one of the people that I met before, right before we went to Kuwait.
So you're not from Mount Vernon?
No, I'm not.
It's because of the bond you formed in Kuwait with that person.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So my question of did you stay in touch with anybody is a definite yes.
Yes.
Okay, when you were in Kuwait, were you allowed to go off
Yes.
your post?
They had a bus that went several times a day down to Kuwait City. Well, there was a palace there that one of the kings donated to the U.S. Army for a recreation center. And it had pool tables, it had a mini golf out in the yard, it had, you could sign out cards or games, or they had fishing poles that you could go in the bay and go deep sea fishing.
Did you ever do that?
Yes.
Did you catch anything?
No.
Okay. What kind of fish did they catch?
I don't remember now.
I don't remember. Did you bring anything back from your overseas time?
I had a ring that was 24 karat gold from Kuwait, and it had two little charms, a heart and a key. and somebody stole it. When I was in Texas, somebody stole it, so I don't have that memory anymore. But I have pictures of our time in Kuwait, and I pretty much, where I work, sometimes I have veterans that I work for, so we have a bond, you know, just because we're both veterans, and sometimes I take the pictures and show them.
What do you think it would be the wisest information or wisest response that you could give someone if they came to you and said, I'm thinking about joining the military?
My son actually wants to join the military, and he has since he was 9 years old. And I encourage him to do it. And I tell him the bond that you make with the other people in the military is nothing that you can make with someone outside of the military. And you become more responsible. Um, you have a lot more respect for people, and the people in the military are just totally different than the ones that have never been in the military.
When you say that they're totally different than the ones that have never been in the military, what do you mean?
Well, I bonded with the people in the military more than I do now that I'm out. I only have made a couple of friends that weren't military, just because we don't have anything in common really. They just are totally different people than what I am.
Is that because it's a sisterhood, a brotherhood?
Mm-hmm.
So you spent 14 years in there. If circumstances would have been different, do you think you would have made it a career?
Yes, I was planning on making it a career.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you have anything that you carried when you were stationed overseas for good luck?
No, not really.
Okay. Did you keep a personal diary?
No.
Is there anything that you can say, I think, that you would like to add to your history?
No, I think we pretty much covered. I did have 8 tours in the National Training Center in California with the 1st Cav Division. So when I went to Kuwait, I had been with them long enough, and we had made that bond in the National Training Center, which is when you're there, you're training for war in the desert area. And so we had a really close bond. So I felt comfortable with the people I was going with. Some of the other units I was in, I would not have felt as comfortable with.
So you felt that was your family,
Yes.
and you had friendships, closeness before you went over to Kuwait
Yes.
with them. Wonderful. The reception that you received every time that you came back from being deployed or your time overseas, how was that?
When we came back from Kuwait, they had lined the highway with people with flags and waving at us, and even when we left, there was people from that area that just got out on the highways and waved us goodbye.
When you joined the military, did you have, what what uniform did you have? Did you have the fatigues that were green?
No, I had the camouflage.
You had the you
Yeah.
were in the desert ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the green and brown and, well, 2 shades of green and brown camouflage.
Okay. Okay. So did you have to make a change to the
Yes.
newer ones?
Yes, that was one of the things we were issued in those little 24 hours.
Was it difficult?
Yes.
Did you have to adjust to a new type of uniform? You know, the dress?
The boots were more comfortable. And the uniform was a lot cooler than the green camouflage was. While we were over there, we could still wear the green camouflage and we could wear the black boots. But they preferred for us to wear the tan.
The one question I would like to ask you is, as a woman in the military and going to Kuwait, did you feel that you were treated equally?
Yes.
Did you see any type of treatment that was not equal?
No. I think because our unit was so equal between males and females that they really didn't treat them any different. When we went forward to some of the infantry units, then they wanted to treat us differently. And they treated the male a lot harsher than they treated the female support team. And even if it was a male and a female that went forward to the infantry, they would treat the male worse than they would treat the female.
Interesting.
Oh, and I also went to Laredo for 3 months as a drug enforcement team with the aviation unit. And we went up in helicopters pretty much every night and patrolled the border.
That must have been interesting.
Yes,
too.
I had a blast there.
And what did you do? I mean, other than patrolling,
Well,
what was your mission supposed to be?
We were medics in case the bird went. We went with the doctor. The doctor got to go every night. The medics, we rotated. But we would go up in a Black Hawk, and they would be in a UH-60, I think, as a smaller helicopter. And so we would just be behind them in case they crashed, and we'd be right there. Or if someone was hurt on the ground and we could see it, then we would go down and give medical support for them.
That was an interesting mission too.
Yes, it was.
Well, Sudie, is there anything else you'd like to tell me?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. At this point, I would like to thank you for the time that you gave our country. I would like to also thank you for the time you served our country. And I would also like to thank you for the time you've given me today and the honor that you gave me for letting me interview you today.
You're welcome.